So just wanted to do a little talk and drive today, kind of describe some of the things I've been working on. I'm in rFactor 2 here at Brazil. We're in the Formula Pro. It's one of the cars I use the most. So I've been working on some Simhub stuff. Right here on the left hand side we can see this green bar, which originally was reserved for battery, but in the F Pro we got push to pass. So I've modified my display a bit for 12 segments, because in our league we get 12 uses of push to pass, up to 4 seconds per lap. So if you're in it for 4 seconds, one bar will tick down. If you're in it and you lift before 4 seconds, it'll still take that bar away, and in the race you won't have access to that time you left on the table. Some of the other things I've done is I've added the engine mixture here, and I've also added, it's actually engine braking, but I'm just using it as diff, the entry diff, because for me, the way that I interpret the feeling is that it affects the corner entry, oversteer, understeer balance of the car whenever I play with the engine braking. So I've mapped that to the diff. One of the special things about rFactor 2 is that these two in particular and push to pass are not part of the rFactor 2 shared memory mapper. So I've had to go about it a different way in order to be able to get that working on my wheel display and the LED profiles that I have here. And part of that workflow is that I have to make sure that I save my race setup that I'm going to use in this current setup folder, and I have to work from there, because what happens is before I hit the track, I'll come in here, select current setup race, I'll load that, and in the background Simhub is going to read that text file, and it's going to parse the text file for the engine map setting and the engine brake setting. Once those two values are parsed, it saves it to a dashboard variable, and then I start to track those variables with my display. So when I make the change, it'll give me the pop-up. So I'm going to go ahead, click drive here. Engine's fired up. I need a little bit more volume. And so then I'll make a change to my engine brake, which I have described as diff. And so we can see diff 13 now, and in my message center, engine brake map is set to 13. I go to 14, then go to 15. Brake bias, I didn't have to do anything with that because the dashboard for the PE F1 Pro already came with that mapped in. And then of course engine map setting. Oh, engine mixture limit set to 6, so it's not going to show up, but if I go down, then my mixture goes to 5 and it goes to 4. I rarely ever drop it down. Maybe I'll put those values in the dashboard here, but let's turn on my force feedback. Let's go out for a lap so we can see the push to pass setup. So
brakes are cold, be careful.
Like I was describing, in this league we get, it's a casual league, really casual. We race every Friday that F1 races, and so next week coming up is going to be Brazil. So Friday night will be Brazil, 25 laps. So here we go. Hit push to pass on the straight here, and then my indicator lights will come on. There they go. Those should stay on for 4 seconds. And then you can see I've lost a bar of push to pass, and so that'll help me in the race plan out how much push to pass I have left. Now that I've completed a lap, it should reset, and I should get it in this DRS zone. There it is. Lifted off early, I didn't use all of it. And so now that's 3 shots done, and I have this much left. And so when I get to the bottom here in the code, what I've done is, as soon as I've used all my push to pass, then all the functionality just stops. So my indicator lights shouldn't come on anymore once push to pass hits 0, and then of course this bar will be empty. So I've been trying to get to this for some time now because, like I said, rFactor 2 doesn't expose this in the shared memory map. You go into Simhub and look at the push to pass, and it says it's not supported. Same with engine map and engine brake setting. So, bit of a workaround. You have to load and run rFactor in a certain way. But if you do that, then you can have access to these things. Like there's my engine mixture. It's a bit delayed. Need to figure out what's causing the delay or if that's just what it is. Turn the diff down. Hit push to pass. Alright, yeah, so let's jump over to the desk and we'll check out what's going on in Simhub. Alright, so here we are in Simhub. Kind of look at the background stuff here. Like I was saying while I was in the car, there's a bit of a workflow that I had to do to get everything working. And one of those pieces is to make sure that while if I want the switches for the mixture and the mixture and the diff or the engine brake to actually work right, then I need to make sure that I'm saving my my race setup in this, and I'm loading from this location here because this is the text file that Simhub is going to open, read, and parse. So while rather than rFactor 2 defaults to a folder for that racetrack that you're at, so rather than saving to that folder, I just save to this current setup folder, and then that way every time I leave the pits, it does the parse and my buttons are set up the way they're supposed to be. So moving on to actual Simhub, my steering wheel uses an Arduino. Again, it's the Pokorny Engineering F1 Pro. And here is the push to pass LED custom status. So we'll take a look at that code quick. And the big takeaways is that you have all this up here that executes once, and then inside here is where it's keeping track of when that button's getting pressed for overtake or push to pass. And then I've just copied it over for a second one so that both the flags come up on each side. Moving into Dash Studio here. So yeah, here you can see that this is the file path that I'm reading. So if I want it to work right, I have to make sure that I'm loading my setup from this folder. And then we're going to parse for the engine brake map setting. Then we're going to assign it to diff. And then we'll throw some if statements in there to capture when that value changes. So the last piece of the puzzle is this control mapper. In order for me to get this to work the way I wanted it to work, I had to use Simhub's control mapper. And what it does is just creates I'm using VJoy, so I create a virtual joystick. I've created all of these buttons over here, gets mapped to those buttons. You would hit map controller, and then it would give you another menu. You click on ignition, and then you press the button on your steering wheel. That's going to be ignition. So now in all your games, all your sim titles, instead of going into the menu and using your steering wheel to map the buttons, you're just going to open up this overlay, and then in your menu you say, okay, I want ignition to be ignition. I want shift plus to be shift plus, shift minus. Big shout out to Dazed Sim Racing application. This Discord server has helped me out a lot. So if you want to get into some of this stuff, hit him up, do Google search. You can find his Discord. That's how I found it. And yeah.